Hello, my name is Oscar de las Salas, and this is Community Icons. Come with me inside. Looking back today, I did not expect at that time for life to unfold the way it has unfolded up to today. I was a young architect that came to Arizona to write a thesis project about Frank Lloyd Wright's School of Architecture, Taliesin. And I just came here for 6 months. That was my plan at that time, 6 months to write the thesis, get to know a little bit about the desert, and then take off and go back to Europe to work for a construction company called Agroman. I had a job pending there. I had an interview, and then the director said, okay, take your time, go to wherever you want to go, do your thesis, and come back whenever you are ready. I fell in love with the desert. Looking back, when I didn't have a community, when I didn't know anyone, I was afraid that the 6 months were only the 6 months. But slowly I got to know the city, I got to know the story, I got to know people. Getting to know the community in Arizona changed my life. And I look back to today and I see that this place is made for those who want to be challenged, but more so challenged to create a city, and more so the city of the future as Frank Lloyd Wright envisioned decades ago. I came here as a student. At the time that I arrived here, I had already worked internationally through 2 different types of works, one in Colombia with a position that took me to build 4 embassies around the world, working for the Federal Building Office, FBO, and a company called Dillingham Construction. So I had a life, an international life as an architect, and I had worked through Europe after my second master's in internships throughout Europe, and then coming here with such a vast knowledge that I was carrying with me and wanting to lend the knowledge and my talents to a community, I found myself not being able to do that. So I wanted to contribute to a city, a community that opened doors for me, not knowing who I was. I moved to downtown when I got here, thinking that this was the downtown of the big cities that I have lived on in Europe, thinking that the city had a little plaza. That was not the city. I didn't have a vehicle, so I had to take public transportation. I had to take a bus. Back then, when bus in this city was very limited, there was no metro, there was taxi was super expensive. I can't even tell you when I considered a taxi to go to the hospital when I was sick. And I moved to a building in downtown called the Embassy Condominiums. Still to today now they are condos. And I took the first floor from a veteran, and he leased me that first floor in that building for 6 months, I believe. And then he said, take the place, furniture and all, pay me $345 back then. And it was the janitor's apartment on the first floor of a building that it was 12 stories. The days here were very lonely. I didn't know anyone. I had to take the bus. There was no downtown. 5 o'clock came and the entire downtown was empty. There was not a grocery store. The only grocery store was on McDowell on 7th Street. And not having a car, not being able to pay for a taxi, I had to buy my groceries at that place and walk back home. But at that time, my goal was to write the thesis project and go back to Spain. And I tell this to everyone, Central Avenue became my corridor. I used to go to the library all the way to the Phoenix Art Museum, that I love art, the Heard Museum, that allowed me to know more about Arizona. And further up later became my office. A young architect hired me to do some drawings for them as a draftman. After 8 years of study and multiple opportunities across the world, I took a job as a draftman. They saw my talent, and he said, "Are you up for work?" And I said, "Well, I'm here. I'm just going to stay 6 months, and I don't have a visa." He said, "That's not a problem. Just come work with us or for us, and then we'll work on your visa." I was a draftman working part-time in his office. It was on Thomas and Central, and I used to take the bus to McDowell and Central at Phoenix Art Museum, and furthermore down to Hans Park and Central, and I lived south of Roosevelt and Central. Up and down, that was my route. I didn't know anything else about this town. I ventured on weekends, went to the Biltmore, and it was a big adventure because I had to take a bus, and the buses, the frequency was about every 2-3 hours a bus. Imagine 110 degrees. With my idea of fashion that I carry with me, wearing linen suits, 3 pieces. Everyone laughs about this one because that was what it was in my world, and then I wanted to translate that world to the world that I experience here. So those days were very lonely. I didn't know anyone. Like I said, my English was very limited. And then I realized that later on when my boss told me, you need to, if you want to stay in the States and if you want to stay here, you better take some classes because you're going to be interacting with people at the City of Phoenix and writing memos and so on. That was my job at that time. I'm going to speak about this with much heart, given the current moment that is happening in this country. And I hope you will listen, because I have the experience of seeing the country in 2 different ways, the real America, in 2 ways. In my office, my boss told me, you're going to write memos, city council they're going to read it, or reviewers are going to read it. You better go to school, relearn your grammar. Having to do the thesis, working, I didn't have funds to go anywhere else other than Phoenix College, that it was blocks from where I used to work. After work, walking to Phoenix College to take ESL, English as a Second Language, first, second, and third level. I remember that clearly. I had to go back from the very beginning. In my class, at night, it was me as a student, but it was also the real America. The people that wanted to learn English as a second language. This was a place where they needed to come to leave behind the history in their country, a place where their families could have a second opportunity to create a world for them and the real American dream. The real American dream was there. And being in that room make us all equal. We were all trying to become the American that this country welcomes. It is the real America. People wanting an opportunity for them and for their families coming to a country that welcomed them with open arms. There was one goal for all those people, and it was to become someone and be successful in this country. That is the real American dream. That's the foundation of this country and the foundation of Arizona. And amongst them, it was me. And I didn't want to stay here, but the opportunity came in front of me. I got to know people, and I saw the opportunity of building a city that we have today, and perhaps the city of the future. Coincidentally, and parallel to these, my office was awarded with a contract with the City of Phoenix to do all the ADA upgrades to the housing units in the city. ADA, American with Disabilities Act, that took place in 1998. I decided to take also those classes in the city and learn about ADA in order to fulfill this contract. So those 2 levels of knowledge that came to me from the society that I wanted to stay opened my eyes to the reality of the city. And then I started to get a little busy and a little distracted, because on weekends, I wanted to experience the city. I used to carry, I remember, a very heavy camera that I purchased in Milan, and then walk around downtown. Through those walks, downtown houses and old bungalows were the houses and bungalows of artists, because people had at some point forgotten about downtown, sold those homes, or didn't even sell them, even abandoned some of them, and go live in suburbia. That was the arrival of suburbia back in the 70s and 80s. Artists had the opportunity to have a very low rent, enough space that became their art studios, and the ability to have other artists around them. So on weekends, I got to know people in the world of arts. My network started to get closer to the world of art and artists and outliers and people that wanted to make a difference. And I became part of it and friends with them to a point that I was invited in many opportunities to their homes, to happenings, so they call it. People that knew how to sing, sang, they baked cookies, and people opened their bungalows as galleries, so people could come and purchase art very inexpensively. And they started to do that on the first Fridays every month. That was the ignition, or the early days of First Fridays. That prompted many opportunities to create many things. Put me in line with Phoenix Fashion Week, helped me to create other group of artists around me that became First Fridays. They later on became Art de Tour, that I got to know through picking up a newspaper in a kiosk, getting to know that Art de Tour was coming every March of every year. Used to go everywhere, and then it was fantastic. It was a party within a party in the city. So further than the sports, the world of sports, the city had something else to celebrate, and it was the world of arts. I felt at home. I created a network. I met people like me, and that allowed me to understand other social factors within the city that to today they live with me. Coming out for some of us is not easy. It took me a good deal of soul searching and finding. When I did, it was my own process. We all should have our own process in life, finding who we are, and I had mine. And that process took a while. And I found myself in front of someone that thought like me, or had principles like me, or there was something else that allowed me to create my version of home. We met at Four Things at a nonprofit event, even though we were friends already, and we knew each other from social outings and gatherings. And I was on my way out of Arizona. I always had the idea to go back to Europe, but I didn't want to leave the States. It's one of those things that I wanted to contribute. I wanted to create momentum. Going back to Europe needed to rebuild a lot of things. Here it was easier, and it's also closer to home. My dad was about to retire. He wanted to open a retail store or do some investments here in the States. So I said, okay, Florida it is. It's closer to you. You've been there. You love it. Let's go. And then I met Gary. And then I met Gary Jackson. We hit it off, or had a good conversation over during this nonprofit that I mentioned. So I invited him for lunch. He didn't know. It was my interview to him to see if he wanted to take the job of being my boyfriend. So, as it is in the world of business, in the world of life, you have investments. And my investment was my heart and my emotions. So I wanted to make sure that this person was fit for the job. I had a series of questions, and I wanted to ask him, we've been seeing each other, we've gone out for dinners, there's some emotions there. I just wanted to know if if we could be boyfriends. And that was a moment of decision, and just ask him flat out. I just wanted to know. But he didn't know that that yes or no was deciding if I was staying here or going to Orlando. He said yes. And then I started the process of staying here and figure out what were my next steps. Coincidentally enough, the home where we live today, the house where we live today, I was about to purchase the same house. We both looked into the same place, and he bought it. So earlier when we were dating, I think I told him, I just can't believe that you bought it and I did not, because I was on my way to Orlando. So there were many alignments and coincidences, and one was one of them. That later on, as time moved and things changed in the country in regards to same-sex couples, we were able to wed, get married, become a person, one person in front of the law. And we have happy 11 years, going on 12 together, and almost 20 together. We all buy houses. We all see houses. We all live in houses. Creating a home is a step further into the emotional part of a human being. And my husband, Gary, today is that part of that process to creating a home with the standards and values that we both agreed upon creating, and with a vision of ourselves in the future that we're still writing. I have had experiences where my name is more important than the mission, where my name is more important than the solution. And it sounds grandiose or big or a lot, but then I have realized that it's better for me to stay behind the back and see things unfold in front of me. Some people are out for themselves, and the seduction of being under a light and have the spotlight on them. When the mic is on, the cameras are rolling, and you are the only one with the spotlight, you better have a message, and you better fulfill the promises that you make. So in volunteering in my community, people see me volunteering, and sometimes it's too much, I would say, because I make myself visible in some occasions, some way I'm needed to be visible, but in many others I'm not. People say, I see you everywhere. Like, you are everywhere. And you can be in places where you need to be, and you can make yourself visible when you want to. And I have learned that through the years. So in that journey, I have met incredible people and many experiences through that process. And this is in my own time as a volunteer. No one is paying me. I have given my talents to the community. Now I have realized that from years, perhaps a decade or so, that strategy is my forte. I still do some community service on weekends and early mornings, and I don't publish it on social media. I don't talk to people about it. I don't want to talk about it, but it's a silent way to give back, because I do believe in giving back. Furthermore, I've been giving my own time, treasure, and talents to organizations, because I do believe that together we can make a change, that together as a community we can do something to change that balance, to change the North. It's only through grassroots and community talking, community conversations, that we can make that change. There's people with power, but the community power is strong and inevitable. My work is not done yet. I don't think about legacy. I don't think I have a legacy like the one that I thought I would create as an architect, buildings and structures to showcase my name or after my name. I chose to build community, and maybe I didn't choose to build community. There's something in my practice that I will write a book about one day, and I call it invisible architecture. Before a project is designed, before a project is built, there is a aspect of the community of a project that has to happen first. The impact that creates, one little project, that is what I am doing right now. And as a person with the organizations that I'm part of, it is that community-centric effort that takes a number of people to put something together for the benefit of all of us. That is where I belong. Like I said, I don't think about legacy because we are creating together, and it is about us. I have never thought about me. I mean, being sitting here in front of the camera telling you the story, it is humbling from someone that's supposed to be staying here only 6 months, someone that doesn't have a family. I have no interest here, zero interest. I could have come, gone, write my thesis and left, but I decided to invest in the town because I thought to myself, I can put my talents to work here, and I'm going to lend to the greatest country in the world my talents to create the greatest society that can be.